Welcome to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Today is Wednesday, April 24th, and this is episode 11. We're going to be talking about Chelsea's loss to Arsenal this week. That was just yesterday on Tuesday. We're going to be previewing the Saturday matches for Bayern and Chelsea, and we're going to go over a couple of, I guess you could say, housekeeping / around the league items. Thanks for joining us.
We're going to try to talk about all those Chelsea things while also simultaneously trying not to talk about those Chelsea things because I frankly don't have much interest as a Chelsea fan.
I can't blame you for that. Chelsea had an abysmal loss to Arsenal, 0-5 yesterday. Cole Palmer was not playing, and I don't know. If you ask me, I just had a chance to check out the highlights. I wasn't able to watch the match or anything in its entirety, but it looks like Chelsea needs to invest in some defense. They probably need to invest in a true striker, if you ask me. But yeah, there wasn't much good to come out of that match for Chelsea.
Couldn't agree more. Palmer being out, Pochettino had some comments before the match talking about how they need to find out if they're going to be Chelsea FC and not just Cole Palmer FC. Clearly, we're seeing now that they might just be Cole Palmer FC. I understand Arsenal are pissed after the Bayern loss in the Champions League, still vying for the Premier League title, playing at their home stadium in North London. But you just have to do better if you're Chelsea. You got to show something. And I don't think Poch put out the best lineup. I mean, I'll kind of talk through the lineup here. It was pretty poor with Badiashile, Disasi, Gilchrist in defense next to Cucurella. That's a back four that we've never even seen.
I was going to ask you about that back four because, yeah, I knew it was much different from the back four against City just recently, who I don't think they played bad necessarily against City, but the back four against Arsenal looked like they didn't know, how to play together. They didn't know really what to do at all.
So the two center backs against City were Thiago Silva and Trevor Chalobah. They've been playing great together. I think they have spent enough time at the club together so they know how to effectively communicate and how to play together. You can't say the same for Benoit Badiashile and Axel Disasi, which is crazy because, listen to this, both of them played together at Monaco in the Serie A.
I didn't know that.
Actually, that might be in Ligue 1 in France, not Serie A. But the point is, we got them both from Monaco, where they had played together. Now they look like they've never played soccer when they're paired. They've been paired 8 times this year. They've given up 19 goals or something like that. Point is, they've averaged more than any other pairing for Chelsea this season. And it just shows Poch really doesn't know what he's doing with these guys that he has. I don't think anybody knows what they're doing at this point. We're just trying to get through the season and not look like bumbling fools.
Yeah, especially at this point in the season, you're going to want to see some sort of continuity in the lineup or some sort of idea. Now, granted, in Chelsea's defense, injuries are a big disruptor in that sort of gelling together, chemistry, stern idea of what your team should look like. But yeah, you can't be this far into the season and be asking yourself these questions.
I will always argue the point that Chelsea has a lot of injuries. I empathize with that, certainly to Poch and to the sporting directors, owners, players themselves. I get that aspect. Tons of injuries, it's going to be tough. But you got to show me something. They give up a goal in the 4th minute. Was one of the easiest goals I've ever seen scored. Arsenal just waltzed right through. And then they kind of battled back. Sure, it was 1-0 at half. Then, per usual, right after half, Poch probably said nothing at half. And then they just go out there and look like fools again. And then you got Kai Havertz, the former Chelsea guy who won a Champions League at Chelsea, scoring 2 goals and celebrating hard.
Yeah, I
saw that.
Players
never do that when they score against their former team. They always show respect. It's clear no player in this league respects Chelsea.
Yeah, I remember when Stanisic scored against Bayern. He's on Leverkusen now. He's on loan actually. He's still technically a Bayern player, but he scored against Bayern this year, and you could tell it wasn't a celebration. It was almost like a, what do you do here? Um, but yeah, I mean, what do you do if you're Chelsea now? What kind of conversations do you have? Is it time to have a conversation about Jackson? Like, I don't know. He doesn't look like a striker to me.
So the thing about Jackson that's very interesting is I love him. Um,
That is very interesting.
no, here's my thing. He has all these chances. He's missing them. Yes, I will recognize that. I'll acknowledge it. And I'll tell him that he needs to fix that and be better. If he wants to be a true number 9 striker in the English Premier League, he will have to find a way to finish those chances. That being said, the reason I love him is that he's creating so many chances and doing so many other bright things for this Chelsea team. One of the only bright spots, makes amazing runs, picks great spots, knows how to pass the ball forward and behind with his teammates. He's finding himself in all the right areas, clearly, because he's missing all these chances. So if that's the one thing he needs to fix is finishing, obviously that's an important thing, but I think he still can get there and develop. So I'm not going to roast him too much. He did have that one chance that, oh boy, when you kind of slowed it down and looked at it, the goal was so open on the left side, and then he tried to go near post and missed. That was kind of an eye-opener to see him miss that. But I'm not too worried about him specifically. I'm more worried about other general things with the team and the tactics and some of the defenders more specifically. Because Chelsea still did have almost 2 XG. So they need to just find out how to finish those chances, really.
That makes sense. I think that right now Jackson is reminding me a lot of, and by right now I guess I just mean the last 2 matches. He's reminding me a lot of Leroy Sané, who's playing through injury, but he's creating chances and then not finishing. Now Sané is not a striker, so I think that's like maybe the difference. But I see this sort of hesitancy or something every once in a while when they make a great chance for themselves, and then it's like they don't have confidence to finish or something like that. It's hard to tell.
So with Jackson, because he's not finishing these chances, I think ideally right now, if I was creating a lineup with Chelsea players, potential players coming back from injury, I'd probably throw him on that left wing because of what he can do. And he's been there a little bit this year. Then you got Palmer on the right wing, Victor Osimhen at the number 9 striker if you buy him, or somebody else at striker, let's say, that you bring in. And then you're probably going to have Nkunku, when he's healthy, at the 10, the central attacking midfielder. Because Gallagher's probably getting sold or whatever. I just don't think he's good enough to start either. I like that team, to be honest. Or even if you put Nkunku at the striker and you do have Gallagher in the midfield,
I was going to say,
or somebody else.
Yeah, Gallagher seems like he could play in the midfield.
So that's the interesting thing about it is, Mudryk hasn't done anything. We've talked about that. So you already kind of have this opening at left wing. Maybe Jackson can fit there. Or you have him as a backup striker, which isn't the worst thing either to bring on as a sub. But I think what will be interesting for the rest of the year, and kind of what I want to say about Chelsea here, is that what they're playing for now, everybody's playing for job security, essentially. No player's job is safe in the 11 except for, the Palmers of the world. There's some others that, due to their value, they're safe. Caicedo, Enzo, for example. But everybody else, you're kind of playing to show that you can be part of this team going forward. Poch is coaching for showing that he can be the coach next year. So they really should still be fighting. I'm not sure how they're not, because technically you can get a Europe spot, but really you're just trying to show that you can be a team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the lineup that you kind of outlined there is not a bad lineup. What is going to happen, I guess, or what do you hypothesize is going to happen, or what would you like to see happen with the center backs at Chelsea? Because I feel like that really the whole back line is where, me as someone who hasn't watched them a ton, but, tends to watch them now, I feel like I have a ton of questions about really the whole back line, but especially the center backs, and now without Silva too.
Yeah, good question. And frankly, because I don't have much to say about the Aston Villa match, I'll just kind of take this time to preview what I'd like to see the rest of the season. Kind of leading from your question there is that I'd like to see Silva, even though he won't be on the team next year. I think you need to play him enough where you can give him a send-off. And I also think because you're still competing for that potential Europe spot, you do need somebody that's competent in the defensive position. So I'm still putting him at left center back every time out. And I'm probably pairing him with Chalobah because, A, he's an academy player that's been there for enough years where he knows the team, he knows how to be somewhat of a leader, he knows how to play with Silva. B, I think he's actually better probably right now than Disasi and Badiashile.
Seems like it.
And C, those in the organization, owners or directors that would like to potentially sell him, you might as well play him then to drive his value up if he's playing better. Because then teams will see it and say, okay, yeah, we'll buy him from you or take him on loan, whatever the case may be. But I think those two are probably actually just the two best center backs as well.
They seem like they're the most consistent, at least.
They for sure are. Yeah, and as far as the rest of the defense goes, you can throw anybody at left back. They all suck, and you hope Gusto's healthy the rest of the year because, man, did it show without him at right back. They are poor and don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's what I gathered as well, and yeah, it's a shame. I feel like Chelsea has some of the pieces that they need, but not quite enough to put together a coherent puzzle. And obviously in the Premier League, that's what you need. And at this point, I kind of wonder about what the future is like for Poch. I mean, it's really no use speculating because we were just talking about this before the episode started rolling, but I feel like every day I see something, Poch is involved in planning for the future. He's lost the locker room. But yeah, I guess it makes you kind of wonder what's going to happen.
As far as the rest of the team goes, Poch included, you just want to try to continue to develop and grow as a team. There's certain players I think just need minutes. Whatever players you think should be an important part of the team going forward, put them on the pitch because you want to get them minutes. You want to get them time to be together and show that they can be an important part of the team. As I said, the Mudryks, the Jacksons, the Maduekes maybe, if you believe that he's an important guy going forward. And if you don't think he is, then don't play him and bring some of these young guys in, maybe some academy guys that are willing to go out there and fight and just see if these guys can prove something. Because with this extra time, these last games that you're going to play, you might as well see what's up with those guys. I think you just throw Enzo into the hospital, have him get surgery because I'd rather him.
That's such a great way to say that. Just throw him into the hospital.
Well, at this point, he's got to get surgery anyway. He's not playing at 100%. Why have him out there,
Yeah.
Because you're kind of at this weird spot where, yeah, you could technically get a Europe spot, but also I think I'd just rather see these other guys, see what they're made of. Yeah, just have him be healthy because I still think he's the future of the team, but I don't know. Why play him when he's not 100%?
And what do you have to lose at this point, too? I mean, it's what is happening right now isn't working, and maybe you can say when Palmer's back and when a few more guys are healthy, it is trending towards working. But yeah, I guess my thoughts are, what do you have to lose? See what you got.
Exactly. Might as well. You're not really going to fall much further. You got some tough games coming up. Aston Villa is going to be tough. You still got to play Tottenham. That'll be tough. Some lower teams that will fight because they're probably battling for relegation. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. With this team, you never know. Part of me thinks they're just going to go out and shock us, crush Aston Villa away, or some crazy thing like that, and crush Tottenham at home maybe, but then they'll probably lose to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. Well, I guess you'll have to check us out on Twitter to get our official previews and predictions for that Aston Villa matchup. Yeah, that's coming up on Saturday. I don't know what time off the top of my head, but it's a regular old Saturday Premier League matchup. I feel like we've had so many irregular matchups lately.
Yeah, so it's actually at 2 p.m. Central Time, so night game in Birmingham, England. Chelsea do like those night games, so that's an interesting factor.
Hoping Palmer will be back.
My early prediction right now is 7-0 Aston Villa. Just joking, but no, that'll be interesting.
I'm not gonna lie, the Arsenal match could have been something like that. There were quite a few good saves, honestly.
There was, and honestly, Petrovic didn't play well, but had also some amazing saves. So it was kind of weird.
I think the first goal he should have saved, but then had amazing saves, and most of the goals, frankly, weren't his fault.
Yeah, always tough to decide, but yeah, we'll see what happens Saturday. Frankly, have more interest in Bayern and the Chelsea women, so I'll still watch, but maybe I'll just only have one eye open or something.
Cool. Well, I can kind of roll us into the Bayern versus Frankfurt preview, unless you have any other closing. I'm trying to think of a sad adjective thoughts.
Closing time.
Nice. So yeah, we got another Saturday matchup in the Bundesliga. This one is at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Classic afternoon matchup. Bayern currently sits at second place in the Bundesliga table with 66 points. Their last 5 Bundesliga matches, they've got 3 wins and 2 losses. Frankfurt currently sits at 6th with 45 points. Their last 5 Bundesliga matches, they have 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses. And honestly, I don't have a ton to say about this this preview for the Bundesliga. It's a tricky spot Bayern's in because they are going to have to rest some key players to make sure that they're ready for the Champions League matchup against Madrid in the week on Tuesday. But then at the same time, you want to try to keep some certain guys sharp and try to get some guys minutes who have had a little bit of a reduction. So I have a feeling that Bayern's going to use a lot of subs. Tuchel's going to use a lot of subs. And I also have a feeling that this could be a trap match for Bayern. They could lose this one. Frankfurt's not a bad side, and it's also like, who do you play? What's your lineup going to look like? Where's your focus going to be?
I do agree with all the points you're saying. I'm also looking at Bayern, looking at the way they've been playing, the confidence they've been building. I just feel like they're going to keep things rolling, even if they do a lot of subs or some of these things you're talking about. I just think that they're kind of together and in it right now as a team, and no matter who they roll out there, they're going to play well. They don't even really need wins that desperately. Sure, you'd want to stay second in the Bundesliga and all that. Frankfurt might be a tougher opponent, but I just kind of have this gut feeling that Bayern right now is, like I said, rolling, and you also want to stay sharp before that Madrid game.
Definitely. I think it's a big game just from the standpoint of motivation, and I don't want to see any bit of doubt creep into the squad as a whole, to individual players. I don't want to see any doubt about Tuchel's tactics or anything like that. I think to beat a Real Madrid that's playing like they are, and just to beat a Real Madrid in general in the Champions League, you're going to need to be firing on all cylinders. You can't afford to be anything but completely together.
Exactly, and this game on the weekend is an opportunity to stay together, to show that you're going to be able to fight together. Yeah, you're obviously not going to play the Sanes of the world that need to rest and need to heal up. But the rest of the guys that are able, hopefully you can stay fit, stay loose, stay focused, stay together, and go out there and do what your manager wants you to do and execute on a high level.
Definitely. So yeah, the last thing I'll kind of go over for that matchup, because like I said, it's almost a crapshoot as to what the lineup's going to be like and who's going to play. Other than I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of subs used. I'm sure right at that 60-minute mark there'll be a lot of subs, but I have a little bit of a predicted lineup here, and we can see how that goes. But I think Neuer's going to start in between the sticks. There's a small world where he could be rested, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Davies is gonna start in the left back position. He might need to be utilized against his future team, Real Madrid. And then I think Kimmich is gonna stay at right back, and I think the center back combination to start is going to be Dyer and De Ligt. I think that's what Tuchel's gonna want to run out against Madrid. And I think you'll see Upamecano and Kim Min-jae come in probably around that 60-minute mark. I think the midfield is going to be Goretzka and Pavlovic. I think that Konrad Leimer will be subbed in at some point. It'd be nice to see Pavlovic kind of regaining his strength and regaining his match time after his illness and weird injuries. He could play a very important role, if you ask me, against Madrid, so I want to make sure he gets all the way healthy. And then the wingers and the attackers in general, I think that Sané will certainly be rested. I don't even think he'll be suiting up for this one. I don't think Gnabry is going to be healthy in time. There's hope that he might be able to play some minutes for the first leg against Madrid, but most likely that I don't even think is going to happen. He's kind of day by day at this point. Coman's not going to be healthy, but I think that Tuchel's going to want to play Musiala. I think he's going to start Tell as well, and then I think he's going to start Muller again. There's a chance that Choupo could start if he wants to go with the big kind of striker, winger, attacker style of play, like he kind of did that with Tell and Choupo and Kane last week too. But yeah, and then I think Kane will play, and I think if Kane has, a hat trick or scores even a couple goals, I think he'll still have a shot to break that Bundesliga scoring record.
Yeah, also something to note, as you mentioned right there with that record in play here, Kane is going to be looking to fire on all cylinders as he usually is, so that's certainly a factor that we need to keep an eye out on, which is why I think, not that Bayern would fall asleep at the wheel here in this match or anything, but factors like that are important for a team. You want to get behind your teammates as part of the collective of the team, but also get behind Kane and try to help him accomplish something that would be rightfully pretty incredible.
Yeah, his first season in the Bundesliga, that would be insane. But yeah, I'll go ahead and fire off a 3-1 Bayern prediction for this one. I would hate to bet against the squad, and I don't know if you want to give yours or if you want to just tease us a little bit.
So this is home or away?
This is home at the Allianz.
Okay, so at the Allianz Arena, vibes are very high in the beautiful city of Munich. I've never been, hoping to go someday, but I can imagine it's beautiful. The way I'm picturing it in my mind right now.
I can see you picturing it. I wish we had cameras.
I actually did look on a map where the arena is, a little bit outside of the city itself, as most stadiums are, but I can picture the city itself just being picturesque. And I'm imagining all those citizens of the city coming together on this beautiful Saturday.
Shooting off fire.
So much pyrotechnics and smoke in the air, you can't even tell what's going on. They're getting ready for Real Madrid the following week. And I tell you what, I'm thinking it's going to be another huge Bayern victory. As of right now, they're scoring at least 4 goals, at least what I've seen in this partial daydream here. But there's probably more of the daydream left, and I think maybe Kane gets even a couple more. Maybe they put up 6. Who knows?
Ooh, that would be nice. Yeah, that would be beautiful. I know Frankfurt is in kind of an interesting spot too. They still have quite a bit to play for. With that like 6-5-4, area of the table where there's quite a bit at stake. So we'll see how it turns out. But I hope that your daydream is more of a premonition, if anything.
Yeah, for the record here, that was just kind of a daydream, and anything that I say on this pod
It's not official.
is not official. I'm not recommending to any bettors out there. What I release, even on the match preview, could be completely different. I could predict Frankfurt winning, 86-0. So it's really anything at this point, but that's just what I'm envisioning now.
Nice. Well, that's what I have to say about that one. Do you want to kind of transition into a couple of around the league or housekeeping news items to talk about?
Yeah, I was thinking there's a couple things we could do here, but just because I thought of it in this moment, and it's something that I want to keep talking about and supporting on a weekly, daily basis, is that I'm very fired up about the Chelsea women right now. I mentioned it a little bit. They beat Barcelona in the first leg of the Women's Champions League semifinal. They're coming back playing in Stamford Bridge this weekend on Saturday for the second leg. And it's huge what's going on right now for them because you got the last year of their manager, Emma Hayes, who will be heading off to America to manage the United States women's national team. But she's in her last ride at Chelsea, been arguably one of the most successful coaches of all time in the women's game, leading Chelsea to titles. And
arguably a better send-off than Klopp.
Oh, for sure. If she finishes this off, it would be way more epic than anything Jurgen Klopp has done in his career. And that's actually not an exaggeration because she really is an incredible coach and has done amazing things. But I just wanted to make sure to add that because what they're doing is great right now. They're exciting, great mix of younger and older players, and really hoping that they can finish this one off against Barcelona and head into the final of the Champions League.
That's beautiful. Well, good luck to the Chelsea women. We'll be supporting them through and through. I also kind of wanted to talk about the ever revolving door, wheel, cycle, whatever of coaches in world football, and specifically as it relates to Bayern Munich. There's a little bit of an update that's kind of been teased today, at least. And again, there's so much speculation. Who's to say what's right, what's wrong? I hear conflicting reports that are extremely sure of themselves every day. So who knows what'll happen? But as we kind of have mentioned before, Bayern's plan A was Xabi Alonso, and he decided to stay with Leverkusen. Bayern's plan B was Julian Nagelsmann, who decided to continue with Germany basically and not take the Bayern job. And at the moment, there's still a couple of names being floated around. De Zerbi is still being floated around as maybe a farther off candidate, but we're hearing reports today that Bayern has offered Ralf Rangnick a contract, and it's kind of up to him at this point if he wants to take the job or not. He's currently coaching with Austria, and so he would have to, leave that gig. But I think that the Austrian Federation has come out and said that they won't get in his way, and so it's shaping up to be a potential there. But I guess all that is just to say nothing is set in stone until there's official reports, because tomorrow we could hear Hansi Flick is coming back, and then I'd be happy. But
yeah, like you said, it's such a revolving door, and It's the same with Liverpool, for example, who feels like they've lost out on all their plan A's and B's. You know, they wanted Xabi Alonso as well. Obviously, they're losing Klopp. Um, they've been rumored with some of these same guys. I forget which guy it is, but there's a guy that's in one of the top teams in the Dutch league right now. Then they've had rumors that they've had contracts with Ruben Amorim. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but he coaches Sporting over in Portugal. So it's similar to Bayern in that it's just all these different guys that they could get. A lot of these same guys. You know, there's so many factors at play. Guys coming and going. You still technically have Tuchel managing Bayern, while there's rumors of him maybe going to Man United or back to Chelsea.
That's the thing too, and there's Bayern fans that are basically doing a 180 and wanting Tuchel to stay. There's a petition out there with like, I don't know, last time I checked it was like 700 or maybe closer to 1,000 now signatures of Bayern fans that are now asking, I guess not asking Tuchel, but asking the board and the Bayern bosses to give the idea of Tuchel staying another chance. So there's really no saying, but like you've said, I've heard rumors of Tuchel to back to Chelsea. Now there's rumors about Tuchel to Manchester United. I think he does want to go back to the Premier League. For a while, I was thinking he wouldn't be opposed to the Barcelona job, but we know that job is not going to be open anymore.
Yeah, that's another interesting wrinkle is that Xavi staying now at Barcelona apparently has been convinced to stay.
Yeah, I really wonder what that took, because every time he was asked about it throughout the season, he was pretty like firm of no, I'm out after this.
Yeah, and I haven't looked closely enough at what goes on in La Liga and specifically with Barcelona, so tough for me to really comment on those specifics behind the scenes, but I know that it's always in the news. My main man Fabrizio's always tweeting about it, so
Yeah, that seems like a hard job from what I've heard. I know that right now Barcelona is like having financial issues, so it's hard for them to buy players, and yeah, it's kind of been a revolving door of players with them too, and a lot of younger players, and yeah, I don't know, but I guess all that is just to say we don't know right now what's going to happen with the Bayern job. I also don't even know what I want to happen, to be honest, because all these guys that are rumored to me don't seem like great long-term fixes, but it's also like Bayern kind of did this to themselves. I think we for sure talked about this off mic. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast at all, but to me it seems like the whole dispute that Hansi Flick had, and then which eventually led to him leaving, set off a really nasty chain of dominoes for Bayern, which kind of caused Nagelsmann to be hired maybe a little bit prematurely, and then him to be fired definitely prematurely if you ask me, and then Tuchel to be hired, and Tuchel's probably not the right fit, and now they're in a place where like there's just not a lot of really great proven like long-term coaches, so it's almost like, what do you want, a caretaker coach for a year? But I mean, that's not appealing to anybody, you know?
yeah, I mean it's eerily similar to what Chelsea's gone through the last few years, except that Bayern's at least maintained kind of some good standing in their league and in European football. But yeah, if you hit this cycle with all these guys that you're giving up on too soon, maybe not giving enough time to, but also you want to balance maintaining how good of a team you are, revolving players potentially. There's just so many things that go on at these huge clubs, and it's really tough to say if they know what they want, what the fans want, what the managers, the players want. There's all these factors, and it's really insane.
Yeah, and how could that possibly be reassuring as a player, or even as a player who's considering moving to the club, with at least that's what I feel like about the Bayern situation right now, with so much turmoil in the coaching position. And at this point, I don't really know what the best thing to happen would be. If I had to make a choice, I would probably say give me Hansi Flick back at this point, but there could be some issues with that too, so I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens, and eventually we'll go more into depth on this because I do kind of want to talk more in detail about what went wrong with Tuchel, and also what is the possibilities and whatever with whoever the new coach is.
I agree. My ideal scenario for Bayern would be for them to keep Tuchel. Just personal preference because I know him, so it'd be easiest for me to kind of keep up with it.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be funny as well. So for the pod's sake, that would be my scenario. But I don't think that's what they're going to do by any means. I don't think that's really even a remote possibility. I think they're probably going to go with this Austrian guy or somebody else in a similar nature, and I think it's going to be a short-term thing, and then they're maybe going to try to take Nagelsmann again once he's through with Germany and the Euros and everything. But really tough to say. I mean, with these managerial changes, it's such a mess.
Yeah, and I'm not going to act like I know everything there is to know about Ralf Rangnick, but he knows the league, I guess. He knows the Bundesliga. He knows Austrian football too is similar. He knows a lot of the players just from his time around. I'm thinking of Konrad Leimer specifically, but there's a couple more. Upamecano, Goretzka, Kimmich. I guess he has some relatively close ties with a lot of these guys. And there's a lot of clamor that I'm seeing from Bayern fans that really don't want him. I don't exactly know what those reasons are. I know he had a pretty rough stint at Manchester United, but, I guess who hasn't had a rough stint at Manchester United recently, so...
For what I was reading on Wikipedia today, it's that he really wasn't even brought in to be a long-term solution at United. They wanted him because he has experience and could be a short-term, basically caretaker. So those that are saying and using that against him, I think is complete bullshit. But what I will say, to that point, he does have all this experience. I think that's right now a downside for Bayern due to the fact that experience comes with his age. He's 65. I just personally don't think that's the route I would take. I'd rather have somebody with youthful energy. I'm not saying they got to be super young. I just don't think somebody that's at that point necessarily will be something that's good for the future. Like I said, personal preference for me.
I agree that he would not be a long-term solution. I don't think that's possible. But again, the options are so limited right now. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah, which is why if they go with him for a year or two, I think it could make sense. I also don't want to sound ageist here or like I'm against older people. I'm certainly not. I just think when you're with a group of young men, very young men, it could be tough at times. And I know he's got that great experience, but as a fan, I just tend to gravitate toward people that I think will be there for the longer term. And while I'm saying this, I'm also realizing I'm being hypocritical because one of my teams, the Milwaukee Brewers, has an old manager whom I love. So maybe everything I've just said is a little bit of a farce, but that's okay.
Well, I think there's merit to it. I think you have to be really hands-on, and I mean, you've seen it with Bayern and Tuchel. You have to be a player manager from the standpoint of who to play and what lineups to choose, but also from the standpoint of handling these egos. And I'm not saying egos in a bad way for the players, but at Bayern, you have a lot of players who are very experienced, and for that reason are, they also know what they're talking about. I'm not going to say with everything, but they have a reason to, I guess, have the thoughts and ideas that they do.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's just such a different team even from Chelsea too, so it's tough to really get in the mindset of what mix and balance you want from manager with your players that you have and the system that you potentially have and potential as a team. There's just so many factors to consider, so it's got to be so tough.
Yeah, there really is no Goldilocks scenario, I don't think, except for Alonso, unfortunately.
I knew you were going to say Alonso there.
Yeah. Well, that's really all I have to say for Bayern's coaching search as of right now. I'm sure it'll be different tomorrow, but that's what I got. Do you have anything else you wanted to mention, or should we bring it home?
Yeah, just wanted to mention briefly that the end of this season, specific to English Premier League, because that's what I watch more of, it's just going to be a great finish, I think. It took a little bit of a hit today when Liverpool lost to Everton. A close friend of the pod, Ryan Stofield, had some harsh thoughts on his Liverpool Reds today. Basically, from his thoughts and from his brain, essentially Liverpool just has been kind of skating a little bit too close to the sun, if you will. So it was eventually going to come, but disappointing to see that, just in terms of how exciting this finish will be for that title spot. I think City's probably going to take it, but we'll keep an eye on that. And then you also got the relegation battle with some teams toward the bottom. Everton got that win, so they'll probably be safe. But you got your Forests, your Bournemouths, your Luton Towns, Sheffield United, Burnley, all battling to stay up in the Premier League. Just a really super important part of the season in the EPL, because there's so many teams that are in the middle spots, but you got to remember there's all these teams that don't get a lot of love, but they're fighting every day to stay up in this league. And it's awesome to see that fight. I wish Chelsea had some of that fight. And it's one of the cooler parts of the sport that I've really learned to love, because it always gives little guys a chance and gives the chance for big guys to fall. And it's so beautiful in the sport of football.
I would agree. I'm also looking forward to seeing how the EPL shakes out here. I think it is a bit of a bummer that Liverpool lost today. It seems like it's going to be between City and Arsenal. Probably City, if I had to think who would win it at this point. The remaining schedules, I know Arsenal has to play Spurs. I think City has to play Spurs too. But besides that, there's not a lot of games where you would think that losses are coming. So I don't know. I'm a little bit bummed out. I don't really have a stake in the race, a horse in the race, a stake in the game. But I would have maybe been rooting for Liverpool. So there you go, Ryan.
Yeah, I've already said my thoughts off the mic here, but just for those that are listening, not a Klopp fan. I've just been so annoyed with his whole retirement tour, so I'm certainly not opposed to them losing today. It sucked, like I said, because the race isn't as interesting now, but
that's the main thing that I feel too.
By gosh, is he annoying though at times? Same with Arteta, so definitely never going to root for Arsenal for other reasons as well. But
yeah,
and then I will just add to the other race that I'm keeping my eye on is, of course, for the Golden Boot in the English Premier League, which Haaland and Palmer are tied right now at 20 goals apiece. I think Ollie Watkins is right behind at 19 at Aston Villa. So it'll be interesting, especially after this weekend. I'm sure Watkins will pick up a hat trick against Chelsea to go into the lead, but that'll be great to watch, especially because you got a Chelsea player involved there.
Cool. Well, I guess as always, thank you for listening. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Apple. Check us out on Spotify and YouTube. That's all I've got to say. Is that all you've got to say?
Yep, that's all I've got to say as well.
Cool. There'll be the normal stuff coming, reactions and previews and everything. So stay tuned. Thanks again for listening. Go Bayern.
Up the Chelsea women.